welcome to the Martial Perspective. Today is March 20th, 2026, and we have another very special guest today. Today, my guest is Grandmaster Tokey Hill from Center of the World, Ohio, Chillicothe. But first, I want to mention on March 19th, 2026, the martial arts community lost a legend. Grandmaster Chuck Norris has passed away, and we all give our condolences and prayers to his family, and it's going to hit the martial arts community pretty hard. So, my thoughts go out to him as well as yours, sir, I'm sure. So, it's nice to have you on the show today, Grandmaster Hill.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
I really don't go by those titles. I go by Sensei or Shihan or whatever.
Sensei Hill really, it is.
Yeah.
So, Sensei Hill, we just had the recent 40th anniversary of the Budweiser National Karate Team. That to me is pretty epic. What can you tell us about the National Budweiser Karate Team? I know your coach was Eternal Grandmaster Ed Parker.
Ed Parker and Chuck Merriman.
Oh wow, those are two legendary names. And you had a teammate that's pretty popular too in the realm of the Taibo series.
Absolutely, Billy Blanks, the great one.
Yeah, I watched a recent video of him, and he did this weird cartwheel kick.
Oh yeah.
And it looked like it was pretty hard to defend against, but yeah. So tell us a little bit about the National Budweiser Karate Team.
Well, originally after the Worlds in 1978, Billy and I were approached by Chuck Merriman, and we had put together a concept with a gentleman by the name of Harry Krebs and Kenny Bloom. And basically, they had a relationship with Anheuser-Busch. And, of course, Harry Krebs was a martial artist. He was a Kempo stylist. And he was under Grandmaster Ed Parker, of course. And basically, it all started, we all were sitting and talking about why is there not a professional venue for martial artists? So after you have an amateur career, like Billy and I did, then there's nowhere else to go. So we sat down and we structured a proposal, and we took Harry and Kenny took it to Anheuser-Busch. Anheuser-Busch loved the idea, and we originally formulated a team. So we picked some other athletes, and we put a team together and started going to the NASCA events, the Battle of Atlanta, the Diamond, all these different events. Then we branched out from there because it was so successful. Like Flashman and Hillard was our PR firm. And, we used to get on, Billy and I would go in prior to the event 2 or 3 days, and we'd do all the media props for the upcoming event that the Budweiser team will be there. So especially like PM Magazine and all the ratings were huge. They really got a lot of marketing value out of the team for what it cost them. So we had a professional team. We had great athletes that have great talent, not only in the ring, but outside the ring as well. So these guys and girls were just phenomenal. So we went from having a team that toured around the country, then we started going around to the continent, and then we ended up going to the world, right? Oh, wow. And then what we did was we got together with Anheuser-Busch and Flashman and Hillary, and then we put together the Budweiser 5 event Grand Slam. And basically, we pulled in ESPN.
Really?
And ESPN put on the 5 shows. Oh, so now not only do we have a team, that's traveling around the country, and these athletes are actually making money for competing and winning.
Hmm.
And then we went from there to putting on the shows that highlighted the Budweiser National Karate Team. And
Wow.
I mean, it was a huge success.
And you guys put this together in what, the span of about a year? This team lasted what, a year?
Oh no, it lasted longer than that. I think I can't remember exactly, but I think it started in 85,
Hmm.
86, somewhere around there. But I mean, it was huge for the sport, because from that, other people like the John Paul Mitchell team,
Hmm.
the hair products,
Right.
yeah, they developed a team. The Miami team out of Florida. I mean,
Hmm.
it initiated a vehicle for athletes to travel from an amateur or competing in events and not getting paid to a very success. I mean, I don't want to get into names, but some of these athletes made 150,000 a year,
That ain't nothing. That's not too shabby in 1985.
and being a martial artist, it came out of nowhere.
Right.
So
Right.
when these athletes would go and compete, they would get paid on a scale, uh, uh, how they placed.
Right.
First place, they get X amount. Second place, they get X amount. But,
Wow.
you know, especially the great Chuck Merriman. He coached Billy and I and Team USA at the Worlds. So that was the first time the United States earned a gold medal, and
Hmm.
I was fortunate enough to be the person that done that. And of course, Billy medaled in two divisions. He
Wow.
got a silver and a bronze. So
Now, were you guys in the same division?
no, sir, it was weight categories. I was
Okay.
in the minus 80, and Billy was in the 80 plus.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty incredible. That's just a fantastic story. You guys had a dream. You guys put it in motion, and you guys made it happen. I mean, that's something movies should be written about. To be honestly, in the martial arts world.
Well, also it showcased a lot of these athletes' talent to be
Hmm.
able to parlay that into, you know, uh, different careers paths. So after, in theatrics, in movies, and I mean, there's been some great success stories that came out of that.
Hmm.
Uh, Christina Ban. I mean, she doubled for Catwoman and some other things like that. I mean, the point is that had that not happened, that visionary process, if that had not, I mean, those athletes would still be going to an event where they're making $1,000 to win the grand champion or their division, which I'm saying there's still the promoters, they put something out there for the athletes, but it's
Hmm.
not like 100, 150, $175,000,
Hmm.
and a pathway to have a career after sport,
Right.
whether it be acting or, product identification, commercials, movies, etc.
Hmm. Well, that's pretty cool.
Well,
So,
actually, John, I think yet today the John Paul Mitchell team is still around.
oh, really?
Yes, I think they still compete.
I'm gonna
Absolutely.
have to look into that because I really don't. I'm more on the Taekwondo side of
Yep.
things. So I mean, I don't really catch a lot of the karate stuff. Although I am learning more and more with each interview I do. So that's definitely
Sure.
something I'm gonna look into. Because have you
Well,
ever thought about that? Oh, go ahead.
so what was also really unique about the Budweiser National Karate Team? It was the rainbow. It covered the spectrum of martial arts. You had yin and yang, hard and soft styles. You
Right.
had You had the taekwondos, the Billy Blanks. You had the Keith Hirabayashi, uh, that was the soft styles. Christine Bent. I mean, there's a lot. There was a lot of thought process put in together developing that team and picking the right team members.
Yeah, I mean, you have your pick of anybody in the United States doing martial arts, and I think that would be incredibly difficult for Grandmaster Merriman and Eternal Grandmaster Ed Parker to handpick this gentleman, this gentleman, this gentleman. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, obviously they did a good job because you guys were very successful in what you did.
Well, I mean, I think the success revolves back around of the team concept,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the people that put this together, the concept together, they really believed in promoting the martial arts, the industry, the disciplines. And that's where we looked at all the different styles and systems and tried to come up with the best athletes from those categories, if you want to call it that, or disciplines, to be able to showcase their skills on a world stage.
Interesting. So,
and as you know, I mean, Grandmaster Parker, and of course, the great Chuck Merriman, I mean, these guys were ahead of their time.
Oh, 100%.
Without a doubt. I used to travel, I traveled with both of them extensively, and just talking with them, because like back in the day, especially with martial arts, karate, and types of training, using weights, plyometrics, these type of things were taboo. Right? So, you can't lift weights. It'll slow you down. It'll make you stiff. I mean, look at Billy at 70 years old, still doing the splits.
He just recently competed, I think, in Las Vegas.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
That's 70 years old. God, I hope I'm still as active and mobile and involved with martial arts as he is.
But you know what, John? It's just like we lost the great Chuck Norris. I mean, Chuck Norris he was more of an incentive out of the dojo than he was in. Mm-hmm. He represent righteousness. I mean, he was the man that would turn the other cheek. Hopefully you didn't try to turn it again. I mean, he's the real deal, both in the ring and outside the ring. And that is a whole nother concept that we looked at when we were picking the Budweiser team, because the image was so important that, you want, millions of people are watching PM Magazine, or they're watching, the ESPN shows. The point is that you want people up there that's going to give a true representation of the sport, of the discipline. So with Ed Parker and Chuck Merriman, they incorporated the discipline, the philosophy of traditional martial arts into a modern day era where people can see it and it be entertaining to them. Because that was a whole nother key to try to make to especially kata. I mean, a lot of people, if you don't have some type of martial arts background, you don't know what they're doing.
No, it looks like a dance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter whether it's Shotokan or Tank Sudo, Taekwondo or karate. It doesn't matter. The key that kept the glue to this program together was they're constantly being innovated, new things, bringing it up. And I mean, I remember we were in New York City Billy and I, we were at Harlem Day in Harlem,
Did
right?
you fit in there?
Yeah, did I ever? So you got the black white thing, right? And then
Yes.
you got a ring in the center of Harlem,
Mhm.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. They set up a ring for us, and Billy and I did a sparring match,
Mhm.
and I mean, it was just those type of things that are happening. That uh, 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 I think that we've lost a lot of that creativity in the martial arts.
You know what?
Not 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 a special. Not I'm not saying taekwondo. I'm not saying karate. I'm saying the industry itself.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was speaking to Grandmaster AJ Perry, and we were talking
Oh,
about how certain aspects of martial arts has gone by the wayside. He was telling,
correct.
I've seen pictures of my Grandmaster Myung Won Kim out of Cleveland, and I saw
Yes,
pictures
yes.
of AJ Perry,
Yep,
Grandmaster AJ Perry. They would
yep.
do demonstrations, and they would do these incredible demonstrations where Grandmaster Perry used to put motorcycle spokes through his
Oh
thing and
yeah,
hold up pails of water and
absolutely.
while doing a split on two chairs. And then I've seen a demonstration where Eternal Grandmaster Myung Won Kim would lay down on a bed of nails, put this big block on his chest, and they'd break it with the sledgehammer.
Sledgehammer. Yep.
I've seen, you know, pictures of Grandmasters standing on glass and breaking things. It's just, you don't see that stuff anymore. Do you think that is because it's something that's being lost, or do you think that's just a culture change in the United
Well,
States?
uh, my my observation is that it's been the martial arts in general has been commercialized, and now it's a there not all, but
Mhm.
the majority by far
Mhm.
is a belt factory. I mean,
Couldn't have said it better.
I
Absolutely, I agree.
I I cannot understand how a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year old can be a black belt. When I trained, there was only four belts:
Okay.
white, green, brown, and black. That's all it was,
Right.
right? And before that, I remember it was just a white belt to a black belt, right? So you never trained for the belt. You went in and trained, and the belt was a amenity to what you were doing.
Right.
So I mean, I think that there's a whole process of training that, like you said, is obsolete anymore. It's very difficult to have a lot of athletes that are willing to go into a meditation form, whatever you call it, whatever
Mhm.
style you do. Back in the day, we used to get down on our knees, and put your legs underneath you, sit there, and go into position, and you would concentrate, you would meditate before and after class.
Right.
You have none of that anymore.
No.
Very few. I mean, traveling around, going to traditional schools, and there's still uh, some of that philosophy that still is in play, but very few, very
When
few.
did when did martial arts become like martial arts schools become more of a daycare than they were a martial arts school? I mean, you've been around a long time. You've been around,
Right.
quite a
Yep.
long time when it comes to martial arts. So
Hmm.
it's very interesting to get folks like you take on this subject. Again, when do you think that these martial arts schools have become more like daycares?
I I think it I would venture to say that it started in the mid to late 80s.
Hmm.
It started, and
Right.
then they seen the difference between teaching philosophically and just promoting for the belt for the money.
Mhm.
So,
I'm sure there was big influx of money coming in at that time.
oh, absolutely. Because then they seen, that the person was so focused on or driven to get a belt that the price didn't matter. I mean,
Mhm.
I've heard of people paying I mean, this is back in the day, 5,000, 10,000 for a black belt program. I mean,
Wow.
really? I mean, what makes you think that that child at 10 years old, when he turns 11, is going to forget karate and go into soccer or
Mhm.
baseball, whatever it is? I mean, but once they start tasting that money, I mean, it, it, it changed the whole concept.
Wow. So, well, let's rewind things a little bit here. When did you start your martial arts journey, sir?
I started in 1974
Okay.
and under two gentlemen, Mike Oney and Jim Manson. And then
Mhm.
I graduated from them to their instructor, which was Don Madden. And uh, and then I did the majority of my training with him.
And you were under what style at that time, sir?
I was under Don Madden. Basically, he did a style between uh, Okinawa Goju and a form of Shotokan. So it was kind of a mixture of both.
So
Yeah.
back in 1974, 75, 76, 77, Shotokan, was that like the go-to of the martial arts?
That was one of the. I mean, as you probably know, Shotokan was one of the largest, if not the largest, style in the world.
Right.
So um, I think what happened was the Japanese kept a tight band on high rank.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult to get ranked from, and it was, and especially for Americans too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it just depends on what style you're in the United States. I've seen tenth dan become more and more common in certain. I'm not going to name any type of styles or anything like that, but there's a particular style where you
Right.
see tenth dan, tenth dan, tenth dan, tenth dan. Um, my style, Kung Sudo and Fluta Kwan,
There you go. There you
we,
go.
we we go up to ninth dan, and
Yep.
there is, I believe, there's three that were in the world that were ever a tenth on in that style, but that's neither here nor there. But
Mm.
I've only met three or four ninth ons. I mean,
Hmm.
that I know of. I know my grandmaster is a ninth on. I know that I know another gentleman that's a ninth on or eight. They're not common, is what I'm saying,
Sure.
at all. So that's just food for thought. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the other side of the martial arts world, but I'd be interested to find out why everybody's a tenth on in this particular style.
Well, it comes back to what I said earlier. How can a 6 to 12-year-old become a black belt, let alone a third-degree black belt, a fourth-degree black belt? I mean, first of all, you know, they can't even comprehend uh, real time from animation. I mean, how do you know exactly how much force to hit with? It baffles me. But if you really look back at the progression of the martial arts, you'll see that a lot of that
Mhm.
is from the financial end of it.
Well, I think the the color belt system of martial arts, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it was intended to be a good thing, but then
Mm,
when it moved over here, because that actually started in foil fencing, I believe, in
yep.
France, and
Yep.
that's what I was told. And then Professor Kano kind of adopted that system and used it for
Mm,
judo, for the color
mm,
belt system, modern color belt system in martial arts. But you have a color belt, it tells you what experience, what rank, and what, where you're at in the spectrum of martial arts. But
Right.
however, you got some folks over here on this end looking at it. Okay, I can get this much money for this belt, this much money for this belt, this much money for this belt, and I can keep increasing it until they get the black belt. And now we can use those color belt systems to advance in the black belt from second degree to or first degree to second degree. So it's
Right.
just a double-edged sword. It really is. I think it was meant for a true good reason, but it turned into a money factory.
Well, one of the yes, absolutely. But originally, and it was, I think it was a good philosophy about reaching attainable goals, goal attainment. So you actually had something to work forward to. So meaning that, to go from white to yellow, depending on what your belt structure is, from white to yellow, you had to learn the basic concept, blocking and kicking and punching. But that's an attainable goal that a young person could see, because especially with Americans, their attention spans are very short. Like I say, yeah, I mean, our classes back in the day used to be 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I mean, it's hard today to get a 30-minute, 45-minute class out of these kids. Their schedule is more sophisticated than ours. They're running from there to do this. So my point is, they treat it as an activity, not a discipline. And that carries over into the way that the dojo or the class itself is taught. Let's get them in. We got 45 minutes. Get them out. Get the next class in. 45 minutes. Get them out. Next class. Oh, this is advanced class. So it's an hour, or let's say an hour and a half. Right. So it's, but again, one of the things that Ed Parker and Chuck Merriman did is they were able to incorporate and keep the philosophical content of the discipline, but also, commercialize it, right? So to make it attractable in our industry.
Right.
They were constantly being innovative. I mean, I remember from Canada, Jean Finette. One year we took those athletes and to the WKF, or at that time was WUKO, and Finette went out there and did a kata and got a 5-minute standing ovation.
Wow.
5-minute standing ovation. And remembering that back then it was primarily a Japanese discipline, a Japanese sport. When Japan come, everybody said, "Oh no, we're looking for second place, third place, fourth place." But when the philosophy of Mr. Parker and Mr. Merriman was, "Yo, man, they put their pants on the same way you do. Go out there and get some."
Right.
And that's what we did. And that was it. I mean, I don't get into conversations about people's personal lives and what they do, but I can tell you this: there's never been a better coach on the tatami than Chuck Merriman. I'm telling you, bar none.
Really?
I mean, there's other great ones, but that he was the man. He understood the ability to manipulate the athlete and bring him into the real time of the event.
Really?
No matter where you were. I mean, when you went internationally, you stepped into a ring and you got 20, 30,000 people. These people pack a venue.
Wow.
You know, and you go to the Battle of Atlanta. Well, the Battle of Atlanta is a little different because Master Corley he was great. He was like Aaron Banks. I mean, he really understood marketing and bringing that marketing into the industry. But you know, the majority of these other events, they had nobody in the stands. All they had was the family members or the people that competed during the day that went there at night.
Right.
Went to the evening show.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're right. I've been to multiple tournaments. I think the biggest tournament I was at was World Police Fire Games last summer. I competed in that the first time. To me, that was the biggest stage I was on. But I've done a lot of the AAU like national events. I did the AAU Cleveland event. Grandmaster Ryan Andrzejczyk, he puts on a hell of a tournament. He packs the stands. I mean, there was 700 to 1,000 athletes competing that day. And he had us out of there by 5 o'clock, which is unheard of. I've been to smaller tournaments where there's 200-300, and we're there till 8-9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. The organizational skills of promoters today are much more sophisticated. Of course, using technology within the industry is huge. You've got, computers running the tatamis or the play area. You got, and they're set on timers, this, that, and the other thing. So it makes the event run much more smoother and more controlled. And you could really put a timeline together with that made the event move as best it could to be on time.
Right. So my next question, sir, is you've been in this genre since 1974. We're at 2026 now.
Right.
There's been a lot of changes in martial arts, and a lot of people I speak to, I ask this question, and I'm interested in everybody's answer because everybody's answer is pretty similar. So you got the sport aspect of karate, taekwondo, and then you got the traditional aspect of karate and taekwondo and all these other things. At least I know in taekwondo, the governing body is the Kukiwan.
Sure.
So you got the Kukiwan. I went to the World Police Fire Games, and they gave me a list of forms. All right, it wasn't based on my belt; it was based on my age. I was a official I'm a third dan in WT. I'm 43 years old, and I had to know all the way up to Jite, which is the top black belt form.
Right.
I never studied that. No, it was all the way up to Ilio. That's our top form. Well, they gave me Jite. I've never done Jite, never watched Jite because it wasn't I wasn't there in my training yet. So I had to learn this form in the span of like 4 to 8 hours. Not 48, 4 to 8 hours. And I did. I mean, I placed, I got second, and I'm pretty proud of that fact. But Jite, those WT forms aren't the traditional forms that I'm learning now because I belted in WT, but those traditional forms, the Tang Sudo traditional, I'm going back to learn my lineage with Grandmaster A.J. Perry. So I'm relearning the whole system because I think it's important not to let our history fade. I want to keep that alive. When God forbid something happens to him, I want to be able to pass on his knowledge to students when I take over Master Warren's school where I currently train at.
Yep.
So do you think the sport aspect is hurting the traditional aspect of martial arts, or do you think it's evolving? What's your opinion?
Well, originally, if you look back on the progression of the sport, right, the traditional martial artists had they trained Kion. They trained, on making technique much the traditional part of the martial arts. There was no difference between that and the sport.
There is now.
So meaning that back in the day. So what happened was, you know, you one day you would fight in a Japanese tournament. The next day you'd be fighting in a Taekwondo tournament. The next day you'd be fighting in. You had that versatility, just like you were saying, learning the kata and competing it. It's not. You might have had the talent, but what you did is you had the discipline, you had the kion, you had the technique of training. So your technique was sharp. You look at these athletes today, you go to an open circuit tournament, right? These guys are doing phenomenal techniques. They're jumping in the air. They're doing, 270s, 360s, 480s. I mean, they're doing wild stuff. However, that is great, but where's the how practical is that? I mean, is that just theatrics, or how does that work with Kion training? So, what we've lost either through the commercialization or just the progression of the industry itself, I feel that we've lost that aspect of that, because it's very difficult to have a child in today's industry come in your dojo and sit there for 45 minutes in a stationary, well, not just stationary, but in a small area doing basic techniques. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
5 minutes. You got maybe 5 minutes and then gone.
You look at you go up to, you go to a dojo, or you do this or you do that. What are they doing prior to the class? They're not preparing for the class. They're playing video games. I mean, I've been to some of the biggest events in the world, and they're over there playing video games. And I'm going, wow. I mean, it might have a therapeutic application to it, but the bottom line is, I don't know, mentally how you're preparing for a world event, playing a video game.
Your mind's not there.
You're not.
Your mind, body, and spirit, or something like that.
You're not in real time.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's. But these athletes, I mean, there's always, it always comes full circle to me. You look at where it is today. I mean, when you go to a lot of the traditional dojos, styles are irrelevant. Traditional is traditional. Whether it's tanks, taekwondo, or Shotokan, it doesn't matter what it is. Mm-hmm. That philosophy, the way that you teach those students that come into your dojo, they're not athletes, they're students. They're there to learn the mind-body connection, right? So, and parents don't bring them there to become a world champion. They bring them there for the character building blocks, the confidence, the discipline, the ability to say no to peer pressure, drugs, sex, whatever it is. That's what I mean, from my point of view, that's what I wanted martial arts. I wanted my children to get from the martial arts, not a gold medal or a title. Right. Because there's life after sport, no matter what sport you do.
Of course. I asked Grandmaster Herb Perez, you were on the biggest stage on the planet with your art. Mm-hmm. What's next? And he told me that he had some very good people behind him, and martial arts instructors and masters behind him, and told him martial arts will always be there, but you have to have an exit plan to move on with your life. I mean, martial arts will always be there, but financially you got to figure out what to do with your life, and he did. Very successful.
The word terminology is an insight to the mind, right? So, uh, you know, eh, when traditional martial artists talk, they're talking about, the discipline and the respect and et cetera, going down the line. So again, I don't know in a lot of the dojo that's being taught. Some of them still do, but
Mhm.
uh, a lot of them don't.
Mhm.
They're into the sport aspect of it. So win at all costs. I don't care
Right.
what you got to do. I want you to get out there and win.
Well, and then you got that aspect of it on one side of the spectrum, and on the other side of the spectrum, you got the participation trophies. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a different time. I know. When I was getting growing up, you either won or you didn't. You first,
yes.
second, or third, or you didn't. It's a different time. But I
But
understand to a certain extent. You have a 3-year-old that goes to a tournament. You want to keep them engaged and everything like that. You want to feel like they succeeded to keep them in martial arts. Because you get a 3-year-old today, or a 4-year-old, or 5-year-old today, and they go in and see everybody win these medals, and they walk away. They're walking away from not only that tournament, they're walking away from the art.
well, I mean, I don't believe in that. I mean, there's winners and there's losers.
Right.
What makes that loser a winner is that experience. You're going to take that experience back to your dojo. You're going to train harder. You're going to work harder. So the next time that you come, you're going to do better. So
Mhm.
I don't but it's in all sport. It's just not
Right.
martial arts. It's in everything.
Yes.
So when what is your the incentive is for you to win. I
Yes.
mean, the ultimate goal is for you to win. The incentive is to keep making you train harder,
Mhm.
reach out for new concepts of training to make yourself better. Now,
Mhm.
uh, and as I was coming up in rank, one of the main things is making your technique better, not making uh, you know a phenomenal technique to win a tournament. It's for my own personal training.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about the karate at the Olympics. I understand that you were very instrumental in getting karate added to the Olympic Games, at least here in the United States. But can you tell me why was that not successful after the first showing in the Olympics?
Well, I think it is because it wasn't relatable. I mean,
Mhm.
a common person watching the event, uh, you know, I must have got 100 phone calls and 300 texts. I mean, Toki, how does that work? There's two combatives. They're in the ring. The guy punches the other guy. The guy gets knocked out on the ground, and he wins.
The
I
guy
mean,
standing.
even in Taekwondo, the guy you jump, you do a jump spin kick, or you kick a guy in the head, you knock him out, you win.
Right.
It's I people just can't relate to that. They don't understand that. Where you have
Mhm.
boxing or like the MMA, the UFC style fighting, they can relate to that because the guy that gets knocked out or submits to it, he loses. The other guy
Mhm.
wins. So I think that was a tremendous downfall for karate when that happened. There's no doubt in my
Hugely
mind.
gonna miss. Yes. Hugely
Well,
gonna miss.
how do you
I
how do
think it
you,
was a.
what? Say it again.
I think it was a perfect storm for that to fail. Obviously, with COVID and the way that they selected the athletes, and just from what I was
Yes.
told and how I'm understanding it, but you can elaborate a little bit more, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it was around the hype of the pandemic, right? So they had qualifying events to try to get the best athletes to represent the sport. No doubt, I get all that. But what happened is some of the qualifiers got canceled, right? And so those athletes that were close to going or had the ability to really showcase the sport never got to go because they didn't get to be able to go to the qualifiers, right? So and the other
let me
thing,
stop you right there real quick. So at that time, I know that you have open qualifications in Taekwondo, at least. You buy a membership to the USAT. You don't have to compete. As long as you have that membership, you can go to open team trials. They didn't have that then?
No.
For karate?
No. They had an open division, but that was not a medaling division in international competition. They had it prior, and then it moved out, and especially in the weight categories, right? And then they had an open division, but they didn't have an open division in the Olympics. If that makes sense, right? They had weight categories.
Well, no, I get that. I get that 100%. But what I'm saying is, you couldn't stop somebody from trying out for the Olympics in Taekwondo, from what I understand. They had open team trials. As long as you went to this location, you could try out for the team, and if you were good enough,
Correct.
you made the team. Karate did not have the open team trials at that time.
No, they did. They did have the open trials. Now I see where you're coming from, right? So you had to go through a process to make Team USA, right? So you had to qualify to be able to go to the nationals, and then how you placed in the nationals enabled you to go to the team trials, which was a separate event at the Olympic Training Center. So that's where the team was picked. And there's other factors involved, John. I mean, some of these athletes, and that's why I really respected the way the Budweiser team and other professional or those teams made the vehicle for these athletes to get out and showcase themselves, is that they funded them. Some of these athletes, Cincinnati, South Side of Columbus, this, that, and the other thing, they never had the opportunity to go. They didn't have the financial resources to go there. Think about this for a second, John. You got to go and you got to wear a certain karate gi or uniform. Let's use the term uniform, right?
That could be up to $300 to $500, depending on
well, in kata, it could be 2,000 for kata, because they're specially made. And they lay a certain way to create the visual for them. Also, the safety equipment, right? You had to have headgear. Then you didn't have to have headgear. Then you got to have hand pads, feet pads, shin pads, this, that, and the other. And then you had to buy it from a certain manufacturer. So there's another cost. Then look at the fees. You had to travel to these events, right? You had hotel. You had transportation of some form, right? You had to eat, right? You had to have food. I mean, some of us athletes, there was 5 or 6 of us in a room. Me, Billy, there's a bunch of us in a room pulling all the money together to be able to go to compete and go compete internationally on top of it. But when you go to the nationals and you have to pay $100 per division to compete, I mean, I'm just saying it created a financial hardship for a lot of athletes because they didn't have the money. For instance, that's one of the things. After working with Budweiser, and Team USA, et cetera, I worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I developed the combative side of that industry. He had uh, different. He had wrestling. We had boxing. We had this and that. So actually, you could actually win those divisions, and your ways was paid to be able to go to the Taekwondo Nationals or the AAU Nationals or USKA, whatever the event was. So, you know, there was vehicles for certain athletes, but yet they still had to get there to compete there to be able to go, to these trials. I mean, financially, it's crazy what it costs an Olympic athlete. And I'm not just saying it's just not in the martial arts, taekwondo or karate or whatever you want to do, judo, whatever it is. But the majority of those disciplines now are on a point system, right? So you
Right.
have to let's take karate for instance. You just can't uh, 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 win an event and you're automatically going to the world championships, right? Now it's a point system. I mean, if you win the continental event like the Pan American Games or something like that, then you're going to earn a slot, right? But the majority of those athletes are working off a point system. So in order to keep to keep competitive, being able to represent your standing in the world ranking, you got to go to qualifying events. That's how you get points. So
Right.
you're cutting out a whole demographic, a group of athletes that don't have the financial ability. And that's why the industry also has problems keeping athletes. They go to soccer or they go to baseball. Why? They don't have that overhead. They don't have that overhead. And
No.
the ability. I mean, I've seen it happen 100 times. Oh, what happened to John? I haven't seen John lately. Did he get hurt? No, he's playing soccer. He's got Division One offers. Correct. You know,
Right.
we have university sports within the discipline of the martial arts. Through the USOC and the IOC, but again, the problem with that is when it really comes down to it, you're funding your own way there. With some countries,
Right. You
I'm
might as
not
well put them on the Titanic because you're different classes.
right. I mean,
You're putting them on a ship where they're class one, class two, class three.
absolutely. Well, without a doubt. Well, some of them can't get on the ship. That's the problem. They,
Right. Right.
and it comes back to what we talked about originally, John, in the beginning, right? About where's the industry today? Is it more about the discipline, the philosophical content, art form versus a commercialization and a money making project? That's where it's
Mhm.
at. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I've been there and done that. I lived it. I know what it is.
Mhm.
I've slept in a room with six other guys.
Let's promote
And
it. Let's start.
I'm talking about at major events.
Mhm. And you did it because you love competing, you love the art, you love being able to
If
showcase your skills. I'm sure.
if Chuck Merriman or Don Madden would have told me to jump off a 3-story building, I'd contemplate doing it. that's, that's how. That's how you know. You know, blindly. You know, and how much you believed in those people.
When I announced that you were going to be on the show, the overwhelmingly positive support that was there is incredible. I mean, you're very well known, you're very respected in your field, and the more I learned about you, the more I gathered more respect for what you've done in the promotion of the martial arts. I
Mm.
just recently found out that you ran the Battle of Columbus for a couple of years as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my
Yep.
first tournament ever. I started late in
Yep.
life.
Right. Right.
That's it's kind of
You know,
sad to what it's
John,
become. I mean, it isn't what it was.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, you got people like that instead of trying to put a positive impact or a positive spin on the martial arts, you know, you got them, you know, trying to downgrade people that are trying to promote, uh, take the industry to the next level, or provide a vehicle for athletes and other practitioners to showcase their talent. You know, uh, when we developed the combative
Right.
sports side of the Arnold sports, I mean, some of these athletes, it took them to a whole different level. You know, and those type of innovations that you know, where these athletes could have ended their career and stopped, like Master Perez and all these other people, these gold medalists, and you know, now they took it to it like he said, there's life after sport. You got to be able to take that discipline and of training and switch it over into lifestyle. You know, because like every sport, you grow out of it. You know, you got to move on. And that's where true martial arts training comes into play. Because if you look at it as a discipline, you're never going to lose that mind and body connection. You know, that it's all about
Mhm.
personal development. And that's why I think being involved in
Right.
many different sports, that I think martial arts is very unique in that self development.
Right. Uh, well, well, we're coming up on an hour here, and like you said earlier, the American people attention span's not very long, so I like to keep it right around 45 minutes to an hour. However, I did not to get to cover half of what I wanted to cover, as you can see here.
Right.
Um,
Uh,
hopefully, we can have you back on in a couple weeks and have another discussion. I thought this was fantastic, sir.
I'm sorry, John, you broke
Uh,
up.
there you are. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Now I do.
No,
Yes.
okay. I had a little bit of technical difficulty there. But
That's okay.
no, it was fantastic getting to know you, sir. I really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I love your insights about martial arts and where it's going and where it is and has been. Again, I didn't get to cover half of what I wanted to cover, and I'd like to have you on in a couple weeks, and we can have another discussion if you like.
Let's do it again, John. It was great. Yep. Yep.
Yes, sir. And also, the March perspective, I'm developing it's not going to be this summer, I'm shooting for next summer, a seminar series with
Oh,
some of my past guests and everything. And I want to bring in different types of martial artists and different
sure.
levels of martial artists. And, we're up in Youngstown, Ohio, and you have an
Yep.
open invite if you want to present, sir.
I'd love to. It sounds like, look, this is the type of activities we need in our industry. You know, and the other good thing about and what made me decide to go on your show is that, as we talked briefly, it's about preserving what look at all the great masters and grandmasters and what we've lost all that knowledge. I mean, what a shame. I mean, we got some, but you know,
Yes.
these type of things that keeps the knowledge around for other athletes or other practitioners to get involved. You know, for me coming up, there's not a technique that I did in the ring that I wouldn't have done in the street. None, none,
Right.
because that's the way I trained. I
Well,
trained that every day,
yeah.
that technique, my life depended on it. And that's the way the philosophy was instilled in me. So, but yeah, I'd love to come back, John,
As a
anytime.
law
You let me
enforcement
know.
officer, I have to use what I know practically.
That's right. There you go.
Absolutely.
And
And
responsibly.
just like right, right, because you're on video 70 times a day, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. But forget that.
So,
170
but
from
what I
the
was going to
street.
tell you, correct, correct,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just like you touched on earlier, preserving words. When you're gone, people will still have this video to go back and watch, and they're going to have your opinions on things. They're going to know what you were thinking about when it comes to martial arts and where you think martial arts is headed. And that's kind of what I want to do, is be able
Yes.
to promote and preserve and protect martial arts, no matter what
There you
art
go.
you're in.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yep.
about breaking people down; it's about building people up. So
There you go.
again, sir, thank you, and to all listeners, I enjoyed this interview, and we'll have Sensei Tokey Hill back on the show. And remember, like, follow, and share, and we'll continue to bring you great interviews moving forward.
John, thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah.